Two churches, two separate incidences in their parking lots really highlight how important it is on how to effectively and successfully approach and make contact with someone in the first place, especially when you know that they're already upset about something. My name is John. I'm the president and founder of Gentle Response. My team and I travel the country conducting very dynamic, realistic conflict de-escalation training seminars for churches, businesses, corporations, state agencies, and law enforcement agencies. Hit that like and subscribe button before I get going here, and to be notified the next time I have these videos out talking about how conflict de-escalation training knowledge and skills would have made a big difference in the outcome of some of these situations I find in social media and regular media and the news. My team and I had trained with this church. We'll talk about church number one earlier this year, and I was recently contacted by their church security leader to let me know that they had an incident that was ultimately effectively de-escalated because of what they learned from my team and I. What happened was I had an individual that, after working with him for at least a year or so, it got to the point where they had to just ask him not to come back to the church anymore, just inappropriate behavior and whatnot. So they asked him not to come back to the church, and they even advised the security team, if and when they see him on the church property again, just call the police. Well, then came a day not too long ago when church security noticed that he was sitting in his car on the church property near the entrance. And on the security video, as you know, was shared with me, you can see two of their church security personnel walk up to make contact with him, and the individual gets out of his car, kind of meets them halfway. However, in moments, within a few minutes, there was about 5 or 6 church security personnel all standing around this man in all varying different body positions, from arms crossed with a very strong confrontational stance, feet shoulder width apart, arms crossed, body squared off, to hands on the hips. Again, very confrontational. All right, so there's this guy. When you look at the video, you see the individual, the subject, with the semicircle of 5 people standing around him. On the video, you see one guy approaches, and he starts to cross his arms, catches himself, and he brings his hands down, and he hooks his thumbs into his pants pockets. And he's the one that's ultimately able to successfully and effectively de-escalate the situation, because he engages the individual, and you can see him turn around and start talking to him. And they're in a little discussion, and they're talking things out, and they're trying to get him to go away on his own. And what really began to almost derail the situation was another individual walks up who had not gone through the training and all that, who apparently had had prior interaction with this gentleman, apparently got frustrated and indignant and offended that this individual was once again on the church property after being asked not to come back. And he comes out, and you see him stand behind the group. He assumes an arms crossed position, and then you can see him just start saying and doing things, which really on the video you can see immediately trigger the subject, because you can see him get upset. You can see him turn around and engage this individual. You see he gets more animated, his head is jutting forward, he takes a couple steps forward, and now both men are pointing fingers at each other. And as you watch this video, you're thinking to yourself, man, this is about to go off the rails and become physically violent. Meanwhile, 3 or 4 of the other individuals standing in a semicircle have maintained their position. So the guy behind him is getting all loud and rude, pointing fingers at this individual. They maintain their position. Fortunately, the individual who was trying to do what he had learned in our training seminar managed to re-engage with this individual and get his attention back. And they're talking and interacting again, and a few moments later, another individual comes out of the office and simply call out to the group, hey, the police are coming. And then he walks away. This subject hears that. He spouts, I don't care, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, he gets in the car and drives away on his own. A successful, effectively de-escalated situation ultimately, however, almost went off the rails because of the body posture, attitude, and demeanor of some of these individuals who came up to have contact with him. Later, when they were asked about their body positioning and stuff like that, some of them who had gone through our training just commented that they didn't even think about how to approach him. They just did, and fell back into default into what felt right at the time. They just felt right to get into this type of defensive or confrontational type antagonistic body posture with this individual. And again, the one individual who was ultimately successful in de-escalating the situation was the one who applied what he had learned from my team and I. Non-aggressive, non-antagonistic body language, soft tone of voice, the words you use and so on, and just talk to him. And ultimately, he made the decision to drive away on his own. Police weren't needed and so on. Church number 2 happened actually at my church. Security guard number 1 on a Sunday morning suddenly was made aware that there was some type of disturbance going on just outside the main entrance that he was at. Some type of disturbance going on in the parking lot. So he comes around and he sees a guy standing outside his car, and he's parked his car in such a way that people coming into that entrance have to go around him. And he's got his car parked right there, and he's outside and he's yelling and screaming at people. Not sure what's going on. Security guard calls it out on the radio and he heads out there to see what's going on. As he approaches to within about 20 feet or so, this individual sees him coming and quickly jumps in the car and very emphatically says, "Don't touch me. Don't touch me." My friend and colleague, the security guard number 1, stops where he's at, assumes a non-confrontational, non-aggressive body posture, hands out and goes, "Hey, I'm not here to touch anyone. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on." And basically, soft tone of voice, non-confrontational, non-antagonistic, just lets the guy know, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And he engages with this individual who starts venting and talking. And apparently, it turns out that he is convinced that he is the risen Jesus Christ. But that's a whole different issue. The point is, we just let him talk and not be confrontational and antagonistic. A few moments later, 2 of the other security personnel at the church arrive, having heard him call it out on the radio. And security number 3 sees that, hey, it looks like a very calm conversation. Nothing dramatic, chaotic is going on. There's no need for all of us to go up there and create a semicircle wall of people giving this impression that we're confronting him, that we're ganging up on him. So security guard number 3 tells security guard number 2, "Hey, you go out there, check on him, see how everything's going. If you need me, I'll be back here." Phenomenal positioning where you're in an overwatch position. You're close enough to react and respond if you have to, but far enough away that the subject that you're dealing with does not feel he's being ganged up on. Security guard walks out there, joins in on the conversation, determines the man's name, which is great. Anytime you can deal with somebody and call them by name, that's a very powerful de-escalating tool because you're addressing them by name. That means you're honoring, respecting, and treating them with dignity, and you're affirming and validating their identity. You don't have to agree with him that he is the risen Jesus Christ. Just address him by name and treat him with dignity and respect. And so these three very, very well done, handled the situation with positioning and so on. And then security guard number 2 got to the point where he was trying to figure out, how do I end this situation? But it played out. Just let it play out. Don't feel rushed to try to end a contact or a situation with somebody. Just let them vent. Nothing was going on. No one was being hurt. No one was being attacked. After a while, the individual got in his car and drove away. Another very successfully, effectively de-escalated situation. All from just making sure and being aware of how you approach someone in the first place. Non-confrontational, non-antagonistic body language, smile on your face, happy greeting, tone of voice, attitude behind it. And again, very successfully, effectively de-escalated situation. 2 situations, parking lot incidences at 2 different churches, but one almost went off the rails because some people kind of fell back onto what feels right and assumed very antagonistic, confrontational body language, and tone of voice was very confrontational, and it almost went off the rails. Slow, deep breath. Keep yourself calm. Get that oxygenated blood to your brain. Taking those slow, deep breaths gives them the opportunity to vent. Let it work itself out. You get that oxygen to your brain, it allows you to think under stress, and if you can think under stress, you're less likely to say or do something that could escalate a situation. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll see you on the next video.